Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Dragalia Weekly. It was an exciting week in Dragalia Lost as we got new levels in the Mercurial Gauntlet, a brand new facility event, a Crescendo of Courage, and we also got the corresponding summon showcase for that. This weekend, Astral Raids returned with Phraeganoth, and I'm going to discuss all of that in this video. You may notice a slight difference in the format, and basically that's in an effort to try to make this video more concise with less filler, including the empty space that would often be featured because of the video being horizontal instead of vertical. So I hope that you enjoy the new format. Let's try to stay on track today, and I'm going to start us off with a discussion of the new Summon Showcase. While I talk about that, I'll show off the relevant daily deals from this week. I was lucky enough to get the two summer husbandos, Ronzel and Luca, off of my free summons and daily deals, which I think it's awesome that we have so many free summons this week for the second summer banner. As far as that banner goes, the existing units that are getting a rate up include Unicorn, who's a 4-star HP dragon, Not a Great Dragon, and Floor, who is a 4-star light dagger. She is pretty good. I did a spotlight on her, and she stands to improve once the affliction change that was intended for last version update actually rolls out. In terms of the new units though, this is the main reason I think you should skip. Some of these units just don't really have a home right now. Summer Verica is a really potent healer. She's the type of healer that, like Hildegard, you could probably run in any type of content just because she's element neutral and she has a ton of recovery potency and healing passives, a regen skill, healing over time, and then a really cool new type of skill that enables all of your teammates to heal based on the damage they're dealing. So in principle, she's a really well-designed healer, but she has blindness res, she can cleanse blindness, and there just isn't really hard content where she would be particularly good. So that's kind of the flaw with her. The flaw with Summer Cleo is that Gala Cleo exists. And I say that sort of as a joke, but there's also a reality that you can't include two of the same unit, same character, on a single solo or single player team. So because of that, for Mercurial Gauntlet, you pretty much always want Gala Cleo, and therefore Summer Cleo will not be really usable if you already have Gala Cleo. The obvious exception to this will be once High Zodiarch releases, since Affliction Resistance is one of the flaws of Gala Cleo, and that is something that Summer Cleo should be able to do better. She's a really cool character. She's kind of got like a Cerise light design. She can only stack up to 4 extra hits on her first skill, and her second skill gives her 4 buffs to go alongside that, and then she also has an emphasis on paralysis, so she's another adventurer who might get better in the future. And finally, the highlight as far as adventurers, I think, is actually Summer Luca. He's kind of a simple character, being a 4-star. He doesn't have a really flashy design, but axes are just a really strong weapon type. They are good under AI control. He has a decent modifier on his first skill, and aesthetically, I feel like they captured him so well, and how it's kind of clumsy, and he gets dizzy after using that. He also has kind of a gambling coin flip mechanic on his third ability that lets him accrue additional energy sometimes, and his second skill gives him an energy increase plus an attack rate up. So he's just a really solid character, and our first light axe with 100% curse res. Finally, Popstar Siren is kind of the biggest enigma on the showcase for sure. I initially thought she might be really good or even broken because her buff is so powerful, 20% strength, 20% defense, and 3 energy, and you can use that twice in one shapeshift, which is completely unique to her. However, her dragon form is really bad, and her aura is only 40% strength. So she seems best on utility units. She might have a home with Odetta just because Odetta has a buff time passive, and she also has another aura ability that increases shapeshift duration, which isn't always a good thing. And I honestly think with Popstar Siren, you may want to be careful about forming a bond with her too quickly. It might actually be better to not bond with her all the way, but just bond enough so that you have exactly enough time to be able to cast her dragon skill twice. That would probably be my approach if I did happen to summon her. I am really lacking for light dragons, so there is some temptation for me, and there's a lot of good fan service on this banner. I think the characters they included are cuter, but obviously I already got my Luca, so I'm still uncertain as to whether I will summon toward the end of the banner or not. Remember, this is not a limited banner, and you can always wait until the last day to decide whether or not you want to pull. I strongly suggest you do that since you never know, you may get who you were going for in free pulls anyway. There are some new worm prints that came out alongside this, including a new worm print with Shell, Seaside Princess, which is extremely good, but that's pretty much all I want to say about the banner. So now we're going to switch gears and I'll show off my first clear of Nightmare Challenge Battle in the new facility event. So this facility event, like most others, you want to start off with your boss battles, your extra boss battles, get materials to level up your facility. That boosts the damage all your adventurers deal in event quests. In this case, it also provides a permanent boost to bows and daggers, which is awesome. That means it's a brand new type of facility that we haven't seen from facility events before. However, despite that focusing on weapon types, the event itself favors a particular element. It favors light element adventurers, and so that's who I brought to take on Nightmare. Nightmare is a new addition, and just like with raids, you only need to do this once per day once it becomes active in order to get a really good grand bounty. The bounties are somewhat randomized, of course, but you still get a nice selection regardless of what you end up getting from it. And I found that the event as a whole, including Nightmare, wasn't too tough. I was going into Nightmare blind, so I brought a team of all light adventurers, kind of my fully decked out team. But for the purposes of grinding, you do want to use the event worm print that goes alongside this, or some of the new worm prints from the shop to increase your grind intake. But for this, I just wanted to make sure I got it clear. And as you can see, it wasn't too hard. The one wave that really tends to trip people up, I think, is the wave with all the basilisks. And it's mostly just the fact that they're positioned in a circle, so it's not easy to hit all of them at once with the skill and take them out quickly. So my suggestion, if you're struggling with that wave, is possibly to transform into a dragon early. If you can easily clear that wave, you can always save your dragon for later, but that seemed to help, and there's a lot of good helpers for this as well. You can use Lucretia, Annalie, Halloween Elisan if you want to deal damage in a wide area, or you could use Vixel and Hildegard if you feel like you need some extra healing and aren't bringing a healer on your team. Hildegard has an extra bonus that she can cleanse Curse, meaning she's a pretty good choice if you're running some poison res adventurers like Odetta or Beautician Zarden in your comp. So the event itself was fun and the story was pretty cute as well. I thought that it was a nice way of sending off Siren. We actually got a lot more details on her personality and her wanting to be appreciated and enjoyed, her music be enjoyed by an audience. And I like how they connected that to what Cleo was going through and wanting to feel comfortable as herself and doing things she enjoyed, including the whole swimsuit thing. I feel like they've been going this route with Cleo for a while, with the latest chapter and her wearing a dress with Shell. And I wonder if the new director is just a huge Cleo fan, because I'm also surprised to see yet another Cleo alt after Gala Cleo, and I'm sure many people were surprised about that as well. But still, it was a pretty fun event and pretty touching story. It was cute. Good music on the event page, and some of the quests actually have some awesome remix music, which I played at the beginning of this video. So that's pretty much all I want to say as far as the event goes. Now I want to talk about level 50 of the Water Mercurial Gauntlet. So obviously we got this update this week with levels 21 through 50, and thankfully I was able to clear that this week, so I guess I'm free for the rest of the month. Compared to last month when we had 2 gauntlets going up to 50, this feels like a walk in the park for me. But that being said, I have invested heavily into my Wind Adventurers, in part because Eleonora is my favorite character. So I knew going in that I really wanted her in my team comp to be able to clear, and because I use her frequently, I had previously max unbound my Pazuzu using 4 Sunlight Stones, so I had a pretty good dragon to start off with. And then I also picked up a rock that you saw in my daily deals that I max unbound using Moonlight Stones and some extra copies. So I had a couple rocks, a Pazuzu, and of course Gala Cleo with her Juggernaut. Had a lot of 5-star elemental weapons for my Lin Yu, for my Wedding Elisan, for my Wedding Aoi, for Eleonora, for Addis and Melody. So I had a lot of options, and what I ultimately settled on was this comp with Addis as the lead, and basically Wedding Elisan and Eleonora as kind of support units. Wedding Alisand does a lot of damage on her own, but she also debuffs the enemy, which is great for the entire team. And I say Eleonora as a support unit basically because she is the main one here who's enabling Addis's Poison Punisher on Pazuzu. Since with Addis himself, I want to always be using Bleed on his S1, and I found that there was a good amount of variance to this. You know, Bleed isn't 100% accuracy, it's only 80%, so it did take a while for me to get a really good string going. And the other thing that really helped me was recognizing that Addis does more damage just by being able to keep a high amount of bleed stacks as compared to transforming into a dragon. So I actually didn't really want to transform into a dragon during or around break. I just wanted to save that for a time later in the match where I could use it to clean up. And the way I ended up clearing was kind of by accident, because I, instead of pressing my skill, just kind of flubbed it and took a clap. But that actually really paid off because it instantly knocked out my dragon, meaning my next dragon would be ready more quickly, and somehow, just by luck, or maybe by timing, Wedding Alisand was the only one on my team who took damage from that clap. So I kind of got lucky. I was getting really close to clearing before this, but somehow this mistake ended up clearing with 6 seconds left. So basically, that's how Mercurial Gauntlet went for me. This one does have more HP than even the Wind Gauntlet. However, you have those powerful tools, some of which I already mentioned, like Addis, Wedding Alisand, Lin Yu, Wedding Aoi to some extent, mostly because of her co-ability. You have Maribel if you don't have access to Galacleo. So there are powerful adventurers, and this should only get easier as the month goes on, as we get affliction changes, since there are some good poison DPS characters in Wind. Assuming the affliction change happens, those should get a lot better. So that's pretty much my look at Mercurial Gauntlet, and I guess this time around I won't be coming back to this much throughout the month. So now to kind of wrap up the video, let's take a look at Phraeganoth. Phraeganoth came back, including a Master Difficulty this weekend as part of Astral Raids, and this was way harder for me than the Gauntlet was, incidentally. So the thing that really threw me was trying to go for that Deathless. I started out in pubs. I was mostly finding rooms with 23,000 might conditions, only water. I was trying that out for a bit, and the two things that kept tripping me up and preventing my Deathless were, one, Phraeganoth does this flame breath in front of him, and the AI have a nasty habit of kind of standing in the way of that if they're ranged. So you really want to make sure you're getting behind Phraeganoth. You can use an iframe on your player-controlled character in order to iframe that breath, but it's not a forecasted attack, so you would need to really plan that and visually see when the flame breath crosses the line of the characters you're trying to protect. So I suggest just trying to stay behind him to avoid that. That should make your life a lot easier, and also make it easier when it comes to his dashes. Plus, it's good to destroy his tail anyway, which I'll talk about in a moment. But the other thing that was killing my AI often was the volcano phase. In that phase, there are several volcanoes on the map, and you need to destroy them before they detonate. However, sometimes even when you destroy one, the other volcanoes that are about to detonate really enclose you in a very small part of the map. And if Phraeganoth has aggro on you at that time, he's throwing down these yellow burning areas, you really have a small amount of room to actually position all of your AI within the safe space. And unfortunately, ranged AI, once again, they like to stand a little farther away, and if they see Phraeganoth there, they're probably going to go and attack him and possibly walk into the purple. So if you destroy the volcanoes early enough, you can manually switch to your AI characters and kind of try to bring them into a safe zone. Otherwise, the way that I've seen people approach it, and the way that ended up working out for a lot of us on the Discord, was we actually did kind of like carries where one person would just run solo with no AI, but that would just make sure that none of their AI randomly died, and that would let that one person get the Deathless. And basically that's what I ultimately had to do, was switch over to Discord, talked to other people who were also trying to get that, and we just took turns. In my case, I was able to get my Deathless with all of my AI, but after this, we went back and I was able to get the Deathless for a couple of the other people in this room that hadn't gotten it yet. So I think it's a little bit down to luck as well. You might have just done one try and gotten this if you had a really smooth run. If your DPS was really high, you can also break or demolish parts, cancel volcano phases, prevent Phraeganoth from dashing or moving around much. The attack I mentioned with his tail that's also pretty annoying, that tends to trip people up, is he does a big tail spin, and if the tail isn't demolished, it will be a purple area that comes out very quickly and will debuff defense. So usually people in pubs would throw out Lookout as a sticker to let you know that was coming up, because if you didn't run in advance, it could easily catch you or your AI off guard, and it's the kind of thing where you either want to commit and decide that you're going to stay on him and keep attacking, maybe try get a demolish to cancel that, or try to break to cancel that, or you want to run away ahead of time enough that you're safe. But if you're in between and you left him but you still got hit, that's definitely the worst feeling. So ultimately, this is another reminder that Astral Raids is very much a long game. It's not a DPS race. Survival is more important. You have a long time to complete these. I didn't notice much difference, honestly, with the fact that you can use more astral pieces to do all the raids at once or get all your rewards at once, because I ended up playing it out every time anyway. I also didn't buy astral pieces, and this time around the rewards are basically just those HP augments. But, you know, the rupees, the consecrated water, the other rewards are good too, so if that's something you're interested in, or you just like playing and want to play more, I think feel free. You know, it's not a huge game, but it's not something where I feel compelled to do it. I don't also feel bad that other people can do it. Now, when it comes to strength augments and we get our next astral raid, that might be a little bit of a different story. Maybe it's more worth considering, but in this case, I think it was a pretty chill astral raid. Hard to get the Deathless for sure, and it can be hard if you're not aware of the attacks, and ultimately, I felt like it lived up to the original run of Phraeganoth, so I was pretty pleased with that. But anyway, everyone, that's pretty much going to do it for this week's Dragalia Weekly. I hope that you enjoyed the new, more condensed formats, and I'll try to continue this in the future. I know my videos were a little bit later coming out this week, and that's because the academic year has started, and that's a busier time for my job. So I hope that you stay tuned and don't mind a little wait on the weekends when it comes to the video releases. Otherwise, everyone, I hope you have a great week ahead. Thank you so much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you next time.